Not yet, no.
You know, tell me if you do.
Nope.
Okay. Which is good to know. So you won't see it till 5-ish.
Now I've got a gray arrow. Should I?
So you're on. That's fine. I'll just leave it. I'm going to stop it. Oh, but we'll stop you. Just doing a little setup. We'll start at 5. So if you are on the stream already, please feel free to get on the chat and tell me you're on. I'd love to see you all say hi and let everybody else know that you're here. We're running this just like a regular panel, so I'm here and I'm all set up, but we're going to be waiting a little while until we get started. So you feel free to watch my shelves for a moment, and I'll be back in just a bit. Hey, Angelica. Okay. Let's see who else we got that. We have Zan, hello, and Edo and Joseph and Holly and Arman. It's really great to see you all. Thank you for coming today. I really appreciate it. I wasn't really sure how this would work. So if it works really well, we'll do it again, okay? John, hello. And Patty, but I knew that. Yes, I knew, because you're actually in the room right behind me. Gerald, hello, nice to see you. This is really fun. It's like, old friends and family. And if any of my family comes on and you're here, hi. I'll try to keep it clean, Mom. I won't keep it clean, Mom. I'm not going to keep it clean at all because I can't stop myself. Hello, Min. So, yeah, I'm only just going to give people a chance to get on, and then we'll get started. I cleaned my shelves for you. I hope you appreciate it. Thank you, Angelica. I like I said, I rearranged it so you could see all the cool shit. I actually have a lot more above and below, but you can't see everything. Gerald. Thank you, Chris. My shelves are my greatest feature. Or something like that. Yeah, I rearranged this so you mostly can see everything. It's not 100%, but it's. I tried to get all the things that were laying down on top of each other into nice, neat order. Hello, Sean. How are you? This is really funny. It's like, hey, everybody. You know what it's like? And only people over 40 are going to remember it. It's like Romper Room. And I see you, and I see you, and I see Chris, and I see Sean. I had another Sean. Hello, Sean. Yes, Shima Moriyanadachi is dull. That is true. And I don't know if it gets better. Everyone keeps telling me it gets better if you keep reading, but I don't know. Romper Room. Exactly, Romper Room. But the thing about Romper Room is most of the people on here probably don't remember it. So it's just us olds. Hello, Louise. So nice to see you. We got 3 more minutes. just going to let everybody hang out and chat. I've got a couple notes to begin with. I'm going to run this just like a regular Yuri panel, which is to say we'll start a little late and there'll be technical difficulties at some point, you know. Oh, old hands. Yes, we can raise the old hands. Old hands up. So the deal is for the youngs. Romper Room was a really terrible, boring, horrible show when I was like 5 years old. And they would look at the camera and they'd say, and we see our friends Sarah and Erica and Sean and all the kids would be like, oh my God, they could see me in the TV show. But I was, even at 5, like, no, they're reading off a card. It's not hard. Anyway, so that's it. What's on my shirt? Thank you for asking, Tama. I was going to pay somebody to do that. So I guess you can't see this. It's my 100 Years of Yuri design. This was a design by Lisa Patilla for 100 Years of Yuri. And you can get them on the Yuricon store under goods, I think. And you can get them in any color. And they're awesome. Yeah, the magic mirror bit. Exactly. Olive, hello. Yes, the Sailor Neptune and Sailor Uranus are watching over us beatifically. This is probably the oldest shirt that I own of them, though. What are the yellow and green mugs? I was just talking about them. So they are these ancient plastic. Hang on. And now stuff is going to fall everywhere because you made me move them. Mugs. See the mugs? They have like little figurines in them. They're from Sailor Moon S. They're so old. I have no idea where they're from. They're this crazy old thing that I found. Probably at Mandarake, because that's where crazy old things go to die. Oh, and Pluto just keeps throwing herself off of things. So I was going to use them for my water mugs, but there's a uranium glass ball inside one of them. I thought maybe not. Hello, 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 hello. All right, we've got about a minute left, and then we'll get started. I want to thank every single person for coming. Oh, did I make it to Japan? No, I did not make it to Japan this year, Joseph. Macadamia was canceled. That would have been this week, which is why we are doing the panel this week. And so it's been postponed to next year, and hopefully I will make it for next year. Lumranma, Yasha, hello. Erin, hey, Catherine, oh my God. It's so good to see you folks. And now it's 5 o'clock, so we're going to get started. Welcome to the 2020 online Yuri panel. This is very exciting. I've never, ever done this where it's 100% open access. Anybody can come. I'm super thrilled that you were all here today. So I have a few ground rules because I'm running this just like as a regular Yuri panel. So I hope you'll stay with me while I just go over some ground rules. This is all the same as in my regular con panels. Please hold your questions from this point on, and we'll have a question and answer segment at the end. I don't want you to put the questions because I might miss them. My wife is in another room, and she's going to cut and paste them into a document in case I miss any. But I can't read my document, talk to you, and also follow the chat. So I hope you don't mind. When you go to ask questions, please do not ask me what I think of a series. The old joke used to be that if I liked a series, you'd never heard of it, and you've liked a series, I didn't like it. That is an old joke. So, excuse me. That joke is no longer very funny because series are coming out so often, so quickly, that we can't really do that anymore. Also, it just got worn out. So the bottom line is, don't ask me for what I think of a series. I've done 4,000 reviews over at Kazu. You can go ahead and take a look at some of those reviews. If I haven't mentioned it there, either I really didn't like it or I don't know about it. That's the rule. Okay, I'm also going to ask you, please don't ask me what Japanese people think of things. I'm not Japanese. I don't live there. I don't feel comfortable speaking to or for a group of people in a country that I don't belong to or live at. And Japanese people generally think about Yuri about as much as American people do. So I think that's not really a fruitful set of conversations, but do consider your questions to be a good time to learn new things and learn not just for you, but for the other people who are in the room with us. This chat is moderated, so any abusive behavior will be not tolerated because I expect that we're all here because we want to be here. I'm going to assume that you don't want to have your time wasted any more than I do, and we have no interest in the grunting of animals. So just consider this the first and only warning. Please keep your chat kind. This panel is expected to go about 60 minutes. And if we have to go about 90, we can, but it's going to be a hard stop at 90 because at some point I get very tired. All right, so we're on. First order of business, I want to thank everybody who subscribed to the Yuri Studio channel in order to help me get YouTube to turn on closed captioning. They did not. They did not respond to me at all, nor have they helped me in any way. And in the end, they actually made it harder for me to get closed captioning. The original bar was 1,000 people, which you all helped me get, and they changed it to 10,000. So that was their response. If you need or you would like to have closed captions, please use webcaptioner.com, and we'll put it over and over in the comments here so that you can see it. I'm going to go ahead and do that right now. Oh, that's not it. Patty will do that right now. Patty, would you do that right now? Yeah. Web Captioner is free. It only works on Google Chrome. But if you put me on and then you put that on in another window, it will live caption. So I apologize that I could not get web captioning. I did my very best. You did your very best. So thank you. All the titles that I mentioned today will go in the notes after this is recorded and we're done, when I post it afterwards. So you don't have to drive yourself crazy taking notes. And I'll post a full list, of course, of all the titles on Okazu. I want to thank all of my Okazu patrons. You've made a tremendous difference to all of the work we're doing on Okazu. Because of you, we can pay guest reviewers. Because of you, I can do interviews. I can go to events when we have events. We get to support queer artists around the world. And you make it possible for me to do things like this. So thank you. You also make it possible for me to get a new chair because this chair is terrible and I need a new chair. Before we start, I just want to say I'm going to have a couple of topics that I'm going to start with, and then I'll open up the floor to questions. So right now I want to start with the state of the Yuri state. Right now, Yuri is incredibly healthy. I can't get over how healthy it is. A lot of art comes from pain, and a lot of art comes from things that are not being said or shown or done. And right now, Yuri is doing and saying and showing a lot. So more and more Yuri is being made to fill in more and more of the holes that are being left over. I'm very, very impressed with the state of Yuri in both the United States and in Japan. So let me go over some of the things that I want to tell you about today. The last time I did an online panel, I actually commented that every single US localizer has some kind of Yuri. And it's actually growing, not shrinking. So I've just picked a few titles right now from each creative group, from each publisher, that I wanted to highlight just so you can see the kind of things we're getting. This isn't comprehensive. It's just a couple of titles. This isn't any kind of advertisement for them. Nobody is giving me money, and nobody has picked the titles for me. And I'm not promoting anything. This is just some things that I want you to know about. So from Yen Press, they have the Eclair anthology series, and I really like the anthology series. Not because I think each story is good. In fact, I like it because I don't like every story. I like the Eclair anthology series. Eclair anthology. That is actually harder to say than you think. Eclair anthology series. I like them because they give you a chance to see new artists, artists that you already know, and artists you've never heard of. And I think that's really great. So I'm going to suggest you take a look at Yen's Eclair, Eclair Blanche, Rouge, and eventually, hopefully, you'll get Orange. And eventually, they'll run out of colors. But I imagine we're going to get Noir at some point as well. In Japan, they just did Orange. Viz, we have upcoming How Do We Even Relationship from Tamiful. And I'm really looking forward to that one because it's super uncomfortable making and not at all your normal romance. And it's about two people who really are just having a lot of trouble in their relationship, and not in like skeezy ways, but in kind of real ways, like they're just not fitting. I really am looking forward to that one in English. Tokyo Pop has Love Me For Who I Am by Kara Konayama, and also Still Sick by Akashi. And that one, I love Still Sick. And again, I love it because it's really uncomfortable, and there's some terrible things and wonderful things, and I think it's great. J Novel Club has, and I'm only going to pick one title, Other Side Picnic, which I'm talking about specifically because it's a really weird-ass horror series that makes no sense and doesn't even fit the boundaries that it says. It keeps saying that it's about web lore or net lore, and it doesn't fit any of the qualities of the way net lore works. So it's really cool, original horror tales. And I think it's great. I think it's a really fantastic series. So I hope you'll take a look at that. I'm really super duper proud to say that we here at Yuricon are actually working on the English language translation of Gunjo by Nakamura Ching. And she's releasing it online on note.mu. And I haven't done a post about it yet, but I will be doing a post going forward. It is, if you recall, my favorite Yuri manga ever, and actually in the top running for my favorite manga ever. So if you look up a Gunjo in English on note.mu, you'll find Nakamura Sensei's site. She's doing a bilingual translation. So she's got a digital edition. It's chapter by chapter that you can subscribe to. It's got our translation, which is to say Aaron Subramanian's translation and my editing. So if there's a typo, tell me. We don't want that. And then we're having a great time with it. It's been incredibly complicated. I'm sure Aaron can argue with that about that. We've had so many long conversations, but holy shit, we're getting to translate Gunjo. Finally, holy shit, I can't believe you can get this. It's so good. It is such a great, dark, emotional, intense Yuri manga. And it is, as I have always said, like eating the most delicious razor blades you have ever had. They are just, it's the most painful, wonderful thing. And I hope you'll subscribe to her chapters. And we're really hoping we can convince her to do a full digital release. Volume 1 is complete. And I think all but one chapter is up right now. So if you want to get the whole volume, it's been a hell of a ride. And yes, we're doing it. Oh my God, how exciting is that? I'm so excited. Finally get to announce that. From Seven Seas, honestly, Seven Seas is doing so much Yuri and so much LGBTQ stuff. I can't even begin to give you a list. So I just picked a couple things I want you to know about. If you're not already reading this regarding Sayaka novels, you should be reading Bloom Into You regarding Sayaka. Volume 3 will be coming out later in 2020 or early 2021. I'm not entirely sure. I'm sure Sean will jump in right now because he knows his stuff by heart. And I just have to say, it's a great adaptation of the character I watched the anime for. And the amazing thing is, the same author who does Adachi and Shimamura is doing these Sayaka novels. And I have to say, these Sayaka novels are like 100,000 times better than the Adachi and Shimamura novels, which I thought was dreadful and boring. November and Print. Thank you, Sean. I knew you'd go and September in Volume 3, and we'll talk about that in a moment. Okay. The other thing I want you to think of upcoming from them is Roll Over and Die, which is one of their light novels. If you like RPG and you're having fun with My Next Life as a Villainess, I think that's one that's going to be really fun for you. Also, I Fell in Love with the Villainess is coming up, which I actually have very mixed feelings about. We'll talk about that in a second, because Seven Seas has teamed up with GL Bunko. Now, I think GL Bunko is a really cool group of people, and they're trying really hard. And I think for them, Seven Seas team up was a brilliant and smart business decision. GL Bunko is doing a lot of web novels, stuff that's being printed online, and they're collecting it and doing these light novel collections in Japan, and they wanted to translate into English. Now they have teamed up with Seven Seas. I think that is a fantastic idea for them. The quality of the work is exactly like web novels. So when you read My Life as a Villainess, I Fell in Love with the Villainess, have your expectations at the level of web novel. That's what I want to say. I don't want to say it's bad, but we're not talking about high literature here at the best of times. I'm currently reading a GL Bunko series called Kunoichi Betagumi Igarashi Satsuki. That's the name of it, the series. And it is about a Edo period samurai female, Kunoichi, and her foreign charge, Vlad Dracula. So I want you to have your expectations tempered. I like GL Bunko. I don't know if they're the greatest things you've ever read. Anime has been anime-ish. So we have My Life as a Villainess, which is not technically a Yuri series, but if you're watching it like I am, it's a Yuri series. I don't know what you're watching. That's all I can say. If you don't see that as a Yuri series. And Tamayomi, which I still am not convinced is Yuri, but we'll see. And then I want to mention one other thing, that Yuri Dojinshi now has 2 publishers in English. We've had Lilica from DMP, which I think is really, absolutely, right? It's absolutely a Yuri series. Thank you. I talk endlessly about Vlad, so if you're reading the chat, you'll see my wife just said, it's funny to listen to me. It's delightful to listen to me talk about Vlad. Talk is a very generous way of putting it. I tend to rant. So I hope you guys can read these stories one day. So Yuri Dojinshi, we now have 2 publishers. We have Lilica from DMP, and I think their choices have been very interesting, and some of them have been very good. And now we have Irodori Sakura, which is launching very soon. Again, I really don't know anything about their choices because they haven't launched. I'm hoping to take a look in advance at some of their work. So we now have 2 Yuri Dojinshi publishers. Get on there, talk to them, tell them what you want to see. They want to sell Dojinshi. So if you say, hey, you want to see this, they will look into it. And I think that's really a great thing. So I think that the industry has never honestly looked healthier. So that's really good. I also want to say, as a coda, queer genre fiction is through the roof. I've never seen so much queer genre fiction. I have never seen so much amazing science fiction and horror and fantasy. So much great stuff out there. So if you're not reading outside comic books, start reading outside comic books, and start with Tamsin Muir's Gideon the Ninth. I reviewed it end of last year, and it was one of the most amazing books I've ever read. I literally refinished it last night because Harrow the Ninth is coming out in August. And I can't express to you how amazing these books are. So if you like fantasy or science fiction or goth or punk or really, really vulgar mouth, lesbian characters who are just really horrible to each other, if you like rivals who fall in love, if you like hateful, horrible people who turn out to be amazing, if you like amazing people who turn out to be hateful, this series has got all of that. It's holy shit, that's amazing. So you have to read that book. Gideon the Ninth, Harrow the Ninth. That's good. So that's that. And then I want to move to quickly, I want to talk about digital. So for years and years, people have been saying, well, they like the feel of books and they like the smell of books and they want books. And I don't really argue with that. I get that you really like books. But what I want from you is to imagine that the difficulties with the pandemic have been destroying the ability to ship, to print, getting people to, to work on time. I mean, digital has been a lifesaver. Really, seriously, in publishing. A friend of ours works in non-manga publishing, and they're saying they've never been busier. So consider that there's a couple of things about digital that I want to talk about here. I want to make a point. One, a lot of the manga publishers are putting out the digital versions first. So if you're one of those people who likes to get things immediately, if you want to be one of those people who gets the Sayaka third novel the moment it comes out, consider digital. Digital will be coming in a couple months before the print. The other thing that I want to say about digital is that in terms of Yuri, Comixology and Kindle are adding stuff as fast as possible. You've got Global Bookwalker for everything Japanese and English. And in Japan, some of the Japanese publishers, particularly the indie publishers like Galette, are putting their books in Japanese on US Kindle. So you can get the Galette quarterly, crowdfunded, creator-owned Yuri manga magazine on Global Bookwalker or on US Kindle. I've never seen such a shift over so quickly, and I know that there was a lot of concern about digital in the original, and back in the day, people don't like supporting now. They don't want to support Amazon, but Global Bookwalkers, Kadokawa, they're paying the creators. It's true, they don't have everything because they're only getting things from actual publishing companies like Galette Works, but they are a really great option, and you can have all of your English language and all of your Japanese stuff on one screen. You can read it on any platform because they're in an app, like the Amazon app. So you've got so many options. You've got so much out there coming out so quickly from so many publishers in so many formats that while I totally understand that you may still be thinking you prefer a book, no one is stopping you from getting the book, but I'm going to be getting Sayaka on digital and in print because I really, 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 really want to read the third volume in English because I've read it in Japanese and it's great. So I hope you're as excited about that as I am. And I want to say that digital has really blown open doors and not closed any. So I think that's really fantastic. And yeah, somebody said being able to download a bunch of books to read on the subway is pretty great. Honestly, I keep Bookwalker app on my phone, on my tablet, on my computer. I'm sitting in my doctor's parking lot and I'm reading Comic Yuri Hime for May because I'm behind. There's so much to read on digital. I'm actually behind on reading. Okay, so in Japan, we're now going to have to talk a little bit about the pandemic here. Shipping is a thing. I don't know how many of you people knew this. I just called you all you people. I don't know how many of you folks know this, but a lot of the shipping outside DHL and Amazon is done through commercial airlines. So when the commercial flights stopped to Japan or have gone very slow, commercial airlines and therefore regular air shipping has come to a crawl. And I don't know how many of you knew that because you're used to Amazon and DHL that have their own planes. Those things still have their own planes and they're still shipping. But if you're trying to get something from Melon Books, for instance, which I am, in fact, waiting for a shipment from, they used to use commercial air. And that meant that they had to slow down. They've added DHL now. So if you're getting stuff from Japan, from smaller companies, from doujinshi groups, from whatever, you might find that a lot of them aren't shipping anymore. And that's not because of any kind of legal issue. It's not because they don't want the planes landing. You know, I'm not a big fan of paranoia. It's because commercial flights have slowed down to the point where shipping is really slow. And I just wanted to let you know about that. That said, DHL and Amazon still are shipping, and so you can still get stuff done that way. Things like crowd-funded groups and individual publishers are still trying to figure out what they're doing. So Galette just posted an announcement that they have figured out what they are doing about print issues going forward. So they're doing okay. They just had to figure it out. They are pretty sure that 14, which had a very limited shipment, they're pretty sure they're going to be able to do 15 through Amazon, through all their other online systems. So that will go out outside Japan as well as inside Japan. So that's a good thing. And before I wrap this part up, I just want to say that some of the Yuri coming out of Japan, honestly, is really good. And I want to pick 2 titles and tell you why I think they personally are really important. I've been reviewing them both. Teiji ni Agera Tada by Inui Ayu and Tsuki to Supin by Akagata Yu. And again, I'll put these names in the titles in the notes. Inui Ayu, her book is really interesting for 2 reasons. One of them is that she is also doing a autobiographical comic in Comic Yuri Hime. So she is a adult life shikaijin Yuri creator who also has an autobiographical as a person living with another woman story in Comic Yuri Hime. Those 2 things combined are really very interesting. But when you consider adding it with Tsuki Totsupin, that is 2 adult life Yuri manga from Shodensha, which is a well-known as a josei publisher. And that's the one kind of Yuri we haven't had a lot of. Even a lot of the shikaijin stuff has come out from Kadokawa. It's like Comic Yuri Hime. It's not for anybody. It's not running in anything. It's itself. Like Eclair isn't running in a kids magazine or an adult magazine. It's just an anthology. These 2 things are running in Manga Jam and Feel, and these are comics where the audience is presumed to be adult women. And then you have Comic Yuri Hime's comic by Inui Ayu. And Inui Sensei is writing about her real life as a person whose partner is a woman in Comic Yuri Hime. And you know, the one thing I've said for years about Yuri is that there's no lesbians in it. Well, now we're getting a little creep of lesbians in our Yuri, which is really, really amazing and really wonderful. So I think that's an extraordinary thing. So I have one last thing, and then I'll open up to questions. Yeah, I do too, Sheila. I agree. I think it's a great, great story. It's charming. I just read volume 3, and I'll be reviewing it shortly. One last thing that I want to talk about is events. Like this Yuri panel, a lot of events are going online. And I think this is really cool and really important and really interesting for a couple of reasons. I say a lot, and I apologize. So San Diego Comic-Con is doing an online thing. Anime Expo has planned Anime Expo Light, the name of which I loathe, but what they're doing is basically cutting down to sort of essential panels, guests, important panelists, industry panels. I'm sure they'll give space to. And of course, we're doing this Yuri panel today. What I'd like from all of you is to please help make all these online panels as accessible as possible. Write the events that you know of that you would have attended and ask them to please make sure closed captioning is available. Please make sure that they're doing things like recording them and making them available. I know that sounds stupid, but there was an event this weekend where they streamed it only and then are not showing the recordings or putting them up anywhere, even though they were pre-recorded videos, panels. So all edited and all ready to go. All they needed to add was titles. And apparently they only got like 200 views. So whatever. So I'm going to say, let's make a difference. Let's all make sure we take it upon ourselves to make sure that things are more accessible going forward. I'm still going to continue my battle with YouTube and probably never do a panel with them again. I don't like them. And one last thing, going forward into 2021, I get this a lot and I just want to respond to this. If you're sitting here thinking, wow, Erica, I'd love to have you at Archon, get me invited. Tell them you want me to come. I will go just about anywhere, which is true to some extent. There are 2 cons I won't go to, but you can't ask me why. And I would love to be at your local con. Have them invite me. And that's all I'm asking from you. And then I'll be glad to come. We can all make a difference in terms of accessibility. We can make a difference in terms of programming. And I hope you'll do that. Okay. That said, we are now at the point, excuse me one moment. I'm going to have to take the top off of this because I think this one's broken. Yeah, here we go. Okay, we are open for questions. And hey, I'm right on schedule, so that's good. I'm going to start with a couple of questions that were given to me previously by my patrons, and then I will open questions to you, and I'll be reading the chat. We'll be talking that way, so it'll get a little weird. Okay, so the first question is from Louise. Louise asks me, because Louise is my friend and she knows the questions I like, what sports, Yuri, do you want to see in the future? And what sports should everyone be playing to make it interesting for you? Well, I like sports. I did a lot of sports as a kid. I was a competitive swimmer. I did softball. I was on track and field. I did mostly field because I couldn't run. I sucked at all of them, every single last one of them. I was never less than terrible at every sport I did, but I enjoyed them. And so pretty much any sport will do, but there's, of course, a list. And the list gets changed all the time. Softball is good. Martial arts, and particularly mixed martial arts, competitive fighting is the top of my list. I think we can all see the obvious the obvious appeal of that for Yuri. And Hayashi Shizuru Sensei did a short story for the Yuri Tora Jump, the second collection, called Friday is the Day. That was my perfect story. And if I got a 27 volume of that series, I would be the happiest person in the world. So that's always good. I really think, oh, curling Yuri. Wow, that would be boring. Oh, no, I'm sorry. So no, curling Yuri would be fun because, of course, they had plenty of time to talk. So there's other sports. I think rugby would be really hot. I like the competitive blood sports like boxing, that kind of stuff. So I think that'd be great, wrestling, that sort of stuff. But pretty much any sport. There was another comic years ago that was a golf manga that never was Yuri, but it had a lot of female, it was women's golf. And a lot of very famous Yuri mangaka did doujinshi about it. So I actually have 1 or 2 of those. I think any sport could be good, but I think there's a couple that are classically lesbian. So softball and golf would be pretty classically lesbian. Rugby would be pretty classically lesbian. I think swimming is pretty obvious. Ping pong, and there's a reason, because a very classic Yuri story called Sakura Namiki has ping pong in it. And there was Hoshito Hana, which was a mid-2000s 2-volume manga that actually had ping pong as the primary sport. So I think you can make anything Yuri, but I think there's some classic events. So, okay, so let me go here. So that's mine. Any sport at all would be good. And I just want it to be, here's what I want. I want it to be more than 3 volumes. I want it to be an actual story and not just a throwaway. I want it to have genuine tension. So it doesn't have to be rivals. It could be people on the same team, but it has to be people where there's like genuine tension. Something that's really driving them in terms of the sport and also in terms of the relationship. So that'd be really good. And then I don't care what sport it is. So Chris asks, is talking to mangaka on Twitter different from talking to them different from talking to North American artists, or does it depend on the individual? Honestly, I can't answer that way because talking to people on Twitter is awesome. I love Twitter. Yes, I know that the existential issues and the business issues with Twitter are just enormous, but my feed is so cultivated. I've got so many great artists on it. Everyone's really super cool. And the Yuri mangaka are just fantastic. They're just forthcoming and friendly on Twitter. If they're there because they want to be there, right? Very few people are there because they have to be. And so if you can talk to folks in Japanese, of course, it makes them happy. A lot of them talk back to me in English. And honestly, that's my favorite way to communicate with Japanese people. Me with my not perfect Japanese typed, and them with their not perfect English in typed form. I think we're all very comfortable that way, and I really like it. So I think it's really easy. I think North American artists are also super. I just think comics and manga Twitter are just the greatest places. They're just fantastic. It's just all about keeping your feed really, really tight. Everyone is an asshole, just gets blocked. No question, no warning, no nothing. I kind of feel that way about everything. There, Catherine's saying that rugby. Yeah, no, rugby and softball. Come on, it's all lesbians. If you are a non-lesbian playing rugby right now, a woman, you're in a minority. So I absolutely. We have a local rugby team called the Morris Pride, and it's because of Morristown, not because of lesbian stuff. But I think it's a pretty great name. I'm just happy with that. So that's that question. I think it definitely depends on the individual, but I think most people on Twitter want to be on Twitter. Okay, one more question, and that's it. Then I'll wrap this up, and you guys can talk. We get this question a lot, and I found it on Okazu, and I wanted to talk about it a little bit. The question is very generally, a lot of Yuri is said to have themes of purity and innocence. And I want to real quick talk about why that is. And I need to get my note back now that I've put it away. So let's talk about platonic love versus erotic love versus agape. And I know you didn't expect to have a Greek lesson, but this is kind of the way it is here in Yuricon Central where we actually talk about this. So there's a reason why the lily represents Yuri. Excuse me. Yuri is the lily flower, and the lily in Victorian language of flowers, among many other meanings, is purity. And why is it purity? It's purity because women have no sex drive. So their love is pure, like the love of a nun for Jesus. It's agape. It's perfect. It has no attention to the body. So there's this sense that love among women is not physical. It's not sexual. It's not sensual. On the other hand, the very same people who obsess about that kind of thing seem to make a lot of porn doujinshi, which means that what you have then is this idea that lesbian sex is pornographic. So you have this weird dichotomy. It's sort of the virgin and the whore thing, right? It's almost exactly that. The lily is Mary, and also the lily is lesbian pornography. But what happens is in the middle, you would then have this S drive for platonic love, sisterly love. So when you have all of these weird stresses from publishers, from censors, from people who want it to be like this, you get this sort of overarching sense that Yuri is about purity, which it is not. Anybody who's ever been in a relationship of any kind is absolutely able to tell you in 10 seconds or less how utterly unpure love and sex are. That's simply not the way that is. So, no, it's really not about purity unless the mangaka makes it about purity, unless you make it about purity, unless there's something else that you need to know. Okay, so now I'm opening for questions. I'm just going to real quick go here. And where is the roller derby Yuri manga? The Yuri roller derby manga. Oh my God. That, Anime World Order, that is an amazing thing. I agree. Roller derby would be stunning. And now I've got a list of questions from my wife who just walked through. So we're going to talk about that. I think roller derby would be brilliant. It has the violence. It has the intensity. It has speeds. You have speed lines on every third thing. And it would be perfect. So I agree with that. So what is the rarest, most obscure thing on my shelf? I'm just going to hold that to last. The rarest, most obscure thing on my shelf is something I love talking about endlessly, and it has been joined by a twin, but I'll have to get up and get it. So let's go here. So we have, do I know if anyone's planning to publish Maria-sama ga Miteru? I do not know. And I cannot say, which is a different thing, not to say that I know anything, but I can't even conjecture at this point. Tokyo Pop had Maria-sama ga Miteru in German. They published the first 2 novels. I do not know how they sold, but we can conjecture only that they didn't sell well enough for them to go forward, or that there was a problem with the 3rd novel. And as you know, I don't tend towards paranoia. I believe it was poor sales. So I don't know. And I think that's a great question. I think that's something we could talk to Tokyo Pop about. I know I would still love to read them. And with light novels being so popular right now, even if they did selected light novels, I think that could be really good. And then, is anybody looking to publish anything by Yoshio Nabuko? Okay, well, we have Yellow Rose, and that's Sarah Frederick. Dr. Sarah Frederick did the translation on that. It's on Kindle. It's only like $2.99, and it is the Yuriest of all the Hana Monogatari stories. It's fantastic, and I recommend it highly, just to have a purely S story in your pocket. In case anyone says to you, have you ever really read anything S? The answer is read that, because it is fully, wholly, super S, and also really gay in the ungayest way possible. And I think it's a great example. I do know that Dr. Frederick is working on other translations, but I don't know what the status of that is. And I know, and I trust her to announce it when or if it will happen. So hopefully one day, maybe we will get some more of the Hana Monogatari, which I would really like, if only for Moeru Hana, which was the craziest story I've ever read in my life. That was nuts. So that was really good. In your mind, what has been the most noticeable change or evolution in the Yuri world? We're doing an online Yuri panel live on YouTube right now. Think about it. That's a crazy change. And I'm talking about Yuri from Japan and Yuri from America and Yuri on digital. Is there a greater? All of it. It's all changed. Everything. 20 years ago, none of this happens. Not one thing that happened today, except for my shelves, which were much smaller. None of it. So it's been an extraordinary change. What role, if any, should trans feminine people play when it comes to Yuri? Any role I feel like. I'm women are women. Trans women are women. Absolutely, you're welcome. I have to say real quick, in my last Yuri Monogatari, we had a trans story. And when I published it, I knew that not everybody would be happy with it. But I thought it was a fantastic story. I stand by it. And trans women are women. Your role is the role you want. Create it, read it, enjoy it, comment on it, write analytically about it, complain about it. You're one of us. You are us. We are you. It's all goo. We're all together in this. This is Yuri fandom Yuri is for whomever likes it. The end. And I hope that answers that. But if you want a different clarification, talk to me afterwards and we'll talk. Sheila didn't know about that particular Yuri story. So let me just real quick. One of the things that happened in the past 10 years is that Ultra Jump magazine, which is the older, creepier brother of Shonen Jump magazine, they published 2 volumes, Yuri Tora Jump. Now, the name is a joke, and it's a terrible, awful, stupid joke. Excuse me. Hang on one second. The joke is that Ultra Jump is Ultra Jump. And so they decided to do Yuri Tora Jump. And it doesn't work in Japanese, and it doesn't work in English. So the funny thing was, as soon as they published it, everyone was like, that's the worst name ever. And it is. It's a terrible, awful name. So they did it anyway. And so there's 2 volumes. It's on Global Bookwalker, Yuri Tora Jump. And if you don't know how to find it, you can go to the Yuricon shop on our digital page. There's a category for digital and Yuri Tora Jump. So people were showing pictures of lilies and tigers, and it was all terrible, and nobody thought it worked, and it was great. But Hayashi Sensei has 2 stories, one in each one. And the first one was hilarious, and the second one was the perfect story. On the figures on my shelf, what is my favorite? I don't have a favorite. My wife's favorite is this saber, which she made me move so you could all see it. I like this Haruka Michiru, this Uranus and Neptune. I like Dark and Moonlight. But I have a whole shelf of Marimita here, and above that is some more large figurines, and I have some more stuff down at the bottom. Basically, everything you see is my favorite, which brings me to my oldest, most obscure thing on these shelves. I'd have to get up and get it, so I'm not going to get it. I have on these shelves, and I have another one sitting over there, a Hana no Asugagumi drama CD. And if you want to know what a Hana no Asugagumi is, and you've never heard me rant about it, this series from here to here is Hana no Asugagumi. It is a series about girl gang, crazy pants stuff from the 1980s that went on from the 1980s, the 1990s, the 2000s, and now has 3 new volumes. And it is about a girl named Asuka who is 13 when she starts and 14 when she ends. And she's the best fighter in all of Japan. She's the best gang girl in all of Japan. I love this series. But that's not why I love the drama CD. I love the drama CD. Oh, Patty's bringing me the other one. Here's the other one. This is the new one. This is the one I just got. Thank you, James Walker. This is the second one. Oh, sorry, this is the first one. So the one that I love best is the second one. Ogata Megumi plays Asuka. That's why. So it's this really obscure drama CD from a really obscure series of really obscure nonsense, and it's voiced by some of the best voice actors you'll ever hear. So it's my absolute favorite. So that's my favorite thing. Are there any fiction genres you haven't seen a lot, or any Yuri stories and would like to? I might be out of the loop, but I dive for gangster Yuri in English. Yeah, I'd like gangster Yuri. I like gang girl Yuri, as you may guess. Because what you see is this entire shelf is gang girl stuff. This is Yaji Kitagaku and Dochuki and Hana no Asugagumi, and also and down a shelf is Skebandeka. So I kind of like girl gang. That would be really great. I'd really like to see more sci-fi, which we're getting. We're getting now sci-fi. Hayakawa Publishing has partnered with J Novel Club, and we have Other Side Picnic and a few of the Miyazawa Iori stories. Those are all sci-fi. We're getting some horror stuff, which is really good. Even if I don't like it, I'm really happy to see it. What we don't yet have is fantasy, Yuri, in the sense of like high fantasy. We had isekai fantasy anthology from Ichijincha, which absolutely 100% failed to do anything interesting. I was so disappointed. The story I would like is Hayashi Shizuru Sensei to do one of the joke stories she did in her first Yuri Tora Jump short story, which is Shiritsu Amazoness, which is private school Amazoness. Shiritsu Amazoness Gakuen. And it is literally a high fantasy fighting private girls' school. Could it be better? That would be the perfect story. I would never need to read another story as long as I live by one of my favorite artists. It would be perfect. So that's that. And the roller derby. So I'm just going to do a couple of things. Which pre-Sailor Moon and post-Yoshi Nabucco title is highest on your license wish list? Gosh, that's a damn good question, Catherine. What would be on my wish list? Otome no Minato, which is not a light novel, it's a novel series, would be on my wish list. I can't think of too many. Oh, Paris no Ken would be on my wish list. And of course, more than anything, would be Brain Goes Fart is the first Yuri manga. Let me get it here, if I have it here. Here we go. Let me just pull it off as I knock things over. This is part of the course. I always knock stuff over. Shiroi Hanafatari. That's probably my big wish list thing. So there's that. Okay. Yeah, no, so I'm just going to read some comments that I can't say I'm shocked the isekai thing. It wasn't that the isekai wasn't good, is that they literally did every trope over again. Nothing else. Absolutely nothing was done. It was literally Truck-kun, person is reincarnated as a cat girl. The end. It was all the boring things all at once. Paris no Ken, right? I think that'd be Paris no Ken. I think is really important, especially for the girl prince thing. We have a continuity that's missing some stuff. So we have Sailor Moon, obviously, but we really need to. And we have Rosa Versailles now. Yahoo! We have Rosa Versailles. We have Sailor Moon, but we don't have Paris no Ken and Shiroi no Futari. And we need to have those. We have Utena, and I want to get all of the continuity on the girl prince thing, so that you could see what happened in between Oscar and Utena, or Oscar and Haruka and Utena. So that's good. Let's see what else we have here. I'm just reading some comments here. Let's see. Paris no Ken, Shiroi and Futari. Okay, so here we go. Oh, She-Ra finale. Somebody asked me about the She-Ra finale. I thought it was great. I honestly thought it was really good. I thought it did what it needed to do. What I think I'm like most fans in that I would have loved to have seen a new princess ball at the end of that as a coda. So we could have seen that all worked out where everyone wasn't being their worst selves, where they were just being their best selves and they all liked each other. And we all want Ketra in the suit again, because of course we want Ketra in the suit again. I thought it was a really good series. I thought it did what it was supposed to do. I thought it did it the way it was supposed to do it. I wanted to see more of it at the end. Like Korra, we want more. So if they do comics of She-Ra, I'll probably pick them up. And my wife and I just we watched Avatar for the first time. I'd seen bits, but I never watched all the way through. We immediately watched Korra, and now we're watching She-Ra. and we did the Princess Ball last night, and she wants to watch it again today. So I think Shira did a really, really good job. I think that was excellent. Let's see. Would I like to see a Futeki on like manga subscription service dedicated to Yuri manga? No, but that's not how I read. So not for me, but yes. So I would recommend talking to both Lilika and Irodori Sakura and seeing what they could set up. I think that's something that they might be interested in. I think it'd be a great idea. I don't read comics in serially like that. I wait till I clump things, I chunk things. So for me, it would be wasted. Crunchyroll, I have Crunchyroll. Obviously, I have a bunch of subscriptions, and really they're for my wife. I almost never sit down and watch things as they come out, except for My Next Life is a Villainess, which, yes, I watch as it comes out. So there's that. I'm just trying to see if anybody else has got something cool. Patty posted one for me. I haven't seen it yet. Let's see. Oh, here we go. How do I feel about Vlad Love and others? I picked up that there's been a recent shift towards more sci-fi and fantasy. Yes, sci-fi and horror specifically. Anime is always, and not to be rude, but it's always kind of lowest common denominator. And because it's visual, it could do more, but it frequently has such tight budgets, it actually does less. So Mamoru Oshii is all into the visuals, right? And he richly, densely packs meaning into his visuals. And I just did a huge roundup of all the visual media of Ghost in the Shell on Okazu a few weeks ago, and there's a lot of it. But I'm not entirely sure if that's going to translate to a vampire series girls story. It's not really girls' love, so we don't really know where it's going. So I would say that not just Vlad Love, because you have vampires and you have the stuff coming out from Hayakawa. So I would definitely say sci-fi horror is definitely on the upswing. Okay, so let's look at some of the things here. Academic question. We hear about the process of publication in Yuri Dojin in English. Well, it's not really different from what it was when I did it back in 2003. Digital has changed everything, so there's that. So all of the printing issues and the distribution issues have become much less critical with digital. But basically, the story is with doujinshi, you as a representative of a company go up to a person who's doing a really cool doujinshi and you say, we would like to publish you in English. And then you're negotiating with that person directly, which I know for a fact that's what Lilika does. I don't know how Irodori does, but Lilika definitely talks to people directly. And interestingly, some of the doujinshi I like best at the last committee I went to are some of the earliest ones they licensed. So you just walk up and you say, I want to license this. But then you have to be able to prove that you can license it and distribute it and have the audience for it, because otherwise you're just jerking their chains. So that's pretty much the technicals right there. Let's see. The other day on the show, I was talking about Sayaka might be one of the most compelling characters in Yuri. Who else do I think fits into the category of compelling? That's a tremendous question. I'm not really sure how to answer that. Who is a compelling bad guy? I said that. There you go. I said my answer, right? Bad guys. I really love and adore Hibari-sama from Hana no Asagakumi. Primarily because as a bad guy, she makes no sense at all. And you can really plumb the depths endlessly of somebody who makes no sense. And so there's that. She's probably my favorite ever of all the bad guys I've ever read. And among those, I'd probably put, for some of the same reasons, Ashi from Utena. Anshi is the engine that drives all of the Revolutionary Girl Utena versions. I think you can do anything and everything with her story. And for fanfic, fan art, just look at the versions that we got. I mean, none of it really makes sense. None of it holds together in any meaningful way, but it all is so fabulous and fascinating that you could talk about her for pretty much ever. I could probably do an hour on Anshi. So I would say that she also is right up there. Let's see. I'm amazed that years ago you uploaded AMVs for it, and now you got to work on Rose of Versailles. I know. Isn't that amazing? I'm so pleased. I'm so proud. I'm so blown away at the work Eric and Mari put into Udon's version of Rose of Versailles. I can't even express how beautiful, how gorgeous it is. We just did so very much. And then I'm so pleased to be part of that. When Eric said I could do it, I literally ran around the house screaming. That 2019, the year I got to be the editor for Gunjo and Rose of Versailles, I can die happy now. I'm beyond happy. So I didn't make any of their AMVs that are on the channel. Those are all from the old YuriCon events. So I don't know what's theirs, whatever's there. But the ROV AMV, the one is by my dear friend Kelly, and she used Your Star Now, which I think was hilarious. It's a hilarious video, and only she and I think it's funny. So there you go. Let's see what else we have there. Horror Yuri. Yuri titles published in English on the way with characters over the age 20. Huh. Wait, let me just turn that so. There we go. I don't know. I know Still Sick is still ongoing, so that's really very good. And that's ongoing even in Japan, so I don't know what's going to happen. And How Do We Relationship is coming out. I'm pulling up the files. The librarian's slow in my head. So How Do We Relationship is coming out in English. And some of the stories from the Claire series are also characters that are over 20. So I would say keep your eye out on Yen, on Tokyo Pop, and on Viz. So there's that. And Holly asks, clarification on the question. I was raised and am generally perceived as a man, so it makes me feel an outsider. Would it be appropriate for people like me to appear in Yuri manga? Okay. I can't answer that, Holly. Yes, of course. But I don't know because I'm not the creator of the Yuri manga that you want to see yourself in. So what I want you to do is write, draw, film, podcast, whatever you want to see yourself. If you want to see yourself, make your own story and make it happen. No, you can't magic Comic Yuri Hime to do something, but you can go ahead and you can find an artist to make the thing that you want happen. And that's what I'm going to say to you, that there's no reason for it. If you feel that you belong in a Yuri manga, I would never say no. I also can't make people want to read that, but that's true for Semel Paris, which is a Yuri manga running currently by Ogino Jun in Comic Yuri Hime that I loathe and despise with a fiery passion, even though it's just all giant busty women beating up characters that look exactly like an Attack on Titan ripoff. So, you can't love everything, right? So would I read it? Yes. If I thought it was good, I would say so. So here's the thing about Yuri. Yuri is for everyone. And I mean it. That's that. That's what I mean. If someone says you can't like Yuri because you're a whatever, they're not right. You can like Yuri, and you can want to see yourself in Yuri if you would like Yuri. It's for you. It's comic books and cartoons. Why shouldn't you see yourself? There. It just makes sense, right? It just seems obvious. So that's the best I can give you, Holly. And, I wish you luck for making your story. And I will read it. I will look at it. I will do my best to let people know about it. Also, don't send me your stories. I don't mean that to be rude. I'm saying folks send me stuff all the time, and I'm glad to read it, but I'll only review it if I have something nice to say about it or I have something constructive to say about it. So if you send me something, I won't promise a review. And if you send me something that you did from your heart and you never see it on Okazu, that just means that I didn't find something that I could say about it. But I won't review it if I didn't like it either. So, I don't want you to be paranoid, but also consider that if you didn't spend time on editing and on beta reading and really getting your facts down straight, if you're sending me something where everybody's doing the same thing that everybody's always done, you may not see it on Okazu. So don't send me stuff. So please, thank you. Thank you, Holly. I don't mean, I'm not saying you personally, you. Okay, so let's see what else we have. Oh, After Hours. Let's talk about After Hours. I just did a review of the author's next thing. See, After Hours is great until the end, and it didn't make sense. So I wrote a review about it, about how it didn't make sense, because the two characters are like, we won't see each other for a really long time. And I'm thinking, you're holding your cell phones in your hands. I don't get it. So I was really looking forward to seeing what Nishio Yuta did. Well, I just did a review of it, and it's 2 volumes. It's called Chayamato Mizuno, and I didn't like it. I didn't like it at all. So just because a creator does really great things doesn't mean their next thing's going to be really great. So that's a thing you should really talk about. And watching this video is going to kill me because I say constantly. But the point is that I need a moment to think because this is live. So if you're sitting there going, God, she says all the time. That's why. Conditions of Paradise. Folks are doing this thing where they're saying stuff that's out right now. And you can find all of that on Okazu. Absolutely. All of those have been reviewed. There's a lot of really cool stuff that is out right now. But coming out, I'm going to say the thing I think you should be looking forward to right now are How Do We Relationship and the Sayaki Sayaka 3rd volume. And those are really, really good ones. Let's see. It reminds me upcoming. Oh, these are all Pikachu. Yes, these are all some of the people are very, very helpfully talking about titles. I definitely think you should read all this stuff here. My wife reminds me to tell you about Murcielago, which I don't tend to suggest because it's terrible. I love it with a fiery passion. It is horror. It is action. It is inexplicable. And it has got really ugly lesbian sex. And when I met the folks from Square Enix, they looked at me puzzled, very, very puzzled. They were like, why do you like Murcielago? And I said, because it's got the ugliest lesbian sex I've ever seen in my life. And they just went dead. It was great. It was like, they're like, perfect response. All right, how do I review settings with only women, no men? I hate them. Hate. So here's the thing. That whole girls' school, there's no men. It's no men wanted, men not allowed. Loathe it, despise it. It's for men. I call it parting the gauze curtain. And it's bullshit. Because what it is letting men know that they're seeing something secret and special and so intimate, like women, sitting around eating bonbons in their underwear, which doesn't happen. Well, maybe it does, but it doesn't happen here. So I don't like all women settings. I liked Maria Samagami because they had brothers and fathers and teachers who were all men and cousins and even though not all of them were great characters, that was the point. Some of them were good, some of them were the bad, some of them were incoherent, some of them were just there. But the bottom line is most women do not live in a women-only world. And I like stories where the world is real and it's not just the two people in love, this teeny weeny little box. I like it when stories have characters in them, which is actually something that happens in Still Sick that I really like. The characters have coworkers, and some of the coworkers are men, and some of them are really nice guys. And I don't mean that nice guys. I mean, they're really decent people. So I really like that. I think that's awesome. So that's a good question. Thank you. Let's see what else we got here. 4 men not found. that's my response to that. Yes, the Pikachu story has the title, Our Teachers Are Dating. The gym teacher and the school teacher are dating, is I think what they originally licensed it as. Ohi Pikachu's story is called Hayama Sensei to Torana Sensei wa Skiyate Iru. And I really think it's sweet and darling. And that's the point. It's sweet and darling. And the plot lines for each chapter are like, they go out on a date. That was the whole story. That was the tweet, So there's that good. I think it's true. The Men in Blue and To You are very good too. So I agree with that. Why do I think there has been less Josei Darker Yuri up until this point? Does it go up against the ideal lily image? So I write about this a lot. Yuri, as a genre, has heterogeneous origins. There's Yuri in shoujo, there's Yuri in shonen, there's Yuri in josei, there's Yuri in seinen, and they're all different because they're talking to different audiences. And then one thing gets co-opted. The S kind of pure love drama of shoujo gets co-opted, and the seinen guys pick it up and they go porn, So, and I don't mean to bump, it's not all men. It's not what I mean, but you know what I mean. So what happens is you get some of the purity stuff co-opted by the not audience that it was originally for. So you do have Josei Yuri. You've had Josei Yuri all along. Love My Life by Yamaji Ebene was one of the first really great Yuri manga of the 21st century. Late 20th or early 21st. Again, somebody will pull up the facts right now. It's really a fantastic story, and it's Love My Life is about a lesbian couple, and that's what it's about, and it's a great story. And it was made into a live-action movie, which is somewhere up here. So we've had it. We've always had it. And we've had Yuri stuff. I have an old Yuri anthology from Chow Horror Comics. So it's shoujo horror Yuri. It was great. It was horrible. It was really, really full of great horror stuff. And I loved it. So it's just that not all of it gets over here in English. But more importantly, as Yuri becomes more popular, there's more space for variety. So as more creators are writing Yuri, as more readers are reading Yuri, as more people are asking for it, as more editors are themselves getting out of the teeny little box, Yuri. Yuri is school stories. Yuri is shakaijin stories, workplace stories. The more of everything, the more of everything we'll get. You understand? So it's up to us to push those boundaries to some extent. Also, I should probably note that Pixiv has been a tremendous change in that. Let's think of Kabi Nagata's work. Nagata-sensei did an online diary about how depressed and unhappy she was, and it's changed the world in terms of comics. It's blown open queer narrative in manga form. It's blown open comic essays here in America. It's blown open first-person real-life narratives of mental health in manga. It's just changed the world, and we're getting all of it. I mean, Seven Seas has licensed the next one, My Alcoholic Escape from Reality. So things change because the audience grows, because the creators don't want to do the same thing. I think Takamiya Jin is one of my favorite creators for that. She does do school stories, and she does do adult stories, and she always tries to push the boundaries of what she's done. So her current story, which is Our Uncomfortable Relationship, is about two people who are really admittedly terrible to each other, but it actually ends up working out, and not because it magically works out. It's not like, and they live happily ever after. It works because she makes the story work. And she always pushes the boundaries. She's got some horror stuff in Galette. She's got stuff that runs in schools that is queerer than your normal things. I would love to get on Moino Kakaro, which is behind me over here. I'd love to get that translated because that's got a main character who's a lesbian. She's an out lesbian teenager, school student. And there's a gay guy, and that's the first chapter. And then the story happens, and the character's never less out. And she's always pushing those boundaries. I would love, love, love to see Takamiya Jin get licensed over here. I feel like her work is some of the best. Let's see what else we got here. 4 different, oh, you nailed it. Dave figured it out. I actually, every single one of them have been different. I have 13 of them. Dave, contact me after this. I have a prize for you. Okay, so let's see what else. Transgender Yuri manga is even rarer to find. Why do I think that is? Okay, it's numbers, all right? Back in the day, people say, how come there's more yaoi than there is Yuri? And my answer always was because there are more straight women than there are gay women. And people would think about it and laugh and be like, no, think about it. It's a numbers game. At the time, the people doing Yuri were mostly queer creators. This was in the US, in North America. Mostly queer creators who wanted to do something Yuri. And the Japanese people have always been kind of mixed. There's a lot of folks who are out. There are a lot of folks who are not. There are a lot of everything. But not all of them are out. There's out, I know you're out, and there's out, you know. So people be like, how come there's so little Yuri? And I'm like, there has to be an audience. ALC Publishing built the audience. And we always knew we would do this. We'd build the audience. We'd lay the foundation. 7 Seas came in and they took it and they've really run with it. And now all that work that 7 Seas has done on top of the foundation we created at ALC, we've gone and built up. And now Yuri is a thing. And Viz and Yen Press and everybody else is part of it. So it's a numbers game. Why is there not enough transgender Yuri? Because there's not enough people who are out there clamoring for transgender Yuri, but there is some, and you should look for it. Not all of the transgender stuff is Yuri, and not all of the Yuri stuff has transgender characters, but that will grow as people make those stories, as people want to see themselves, as people ask for that. So you can't write 7 Seas. I keep beating on 7 Seas, but they've got so much Yuri coming out. You can't ask 7 Seas, hey, 7 Seas, can you make more transgender Yuri? But you can ask your favorite creators, write a letter politely in Japanese, go to their blogs, and put a note saying, I love you, Yuri. Can you have a transgender character? Just like that. And if you ask, they may not do it, but at least you tried. And that's really the important point. Okay, so let's see what else here. What was the way to read Gunjo in English? I will have all the notes at the bottom, but it's Nakamura Ching's site. If you go to ching.tv, Ching TV, if you go to her blog there, and note.mu is the site that she'll have linked, go to her note, and it'll be there. Note.mu does take credit cards because I've had a long, tedious, obnoxious, boring battle with them a couple of years ago to try to get it to accept American credit cards. So they do accept foreign credit cards. And I'll have all this in the notes. I'll have all of this on Okazu so you can find that later. Let's see. All right. Yes, thank you for mentioning Heart of the Woods. So Studio Elan, there's another thing, going back to the question of what has changed. Visual novels. I'm never going to be the audience for visual novels. It's not it's just a personal thing. It's not an assault. I cannot express to you how amazing Studio Elan's work is. They're pushing that technical envelope in ways that are just fantastic. They're doing great stories. Yes, Heart of the Woods is, it's a spoiler, but that's part of their storyline. And there are other folks. I know some of the doujinshi. I'm pretty sure some of the doujinshi being translated is. Then there's like Tokyo Pop's Love Me for Who I Am. It's non-binary and it's always sort of skirting it. You know, you get things like The Breath of Flowers, where it's not trans, it's kind of like mistaken identity, which whatever. But you're getting more and more people sort of putting that in there and around there. And of course, if you haven't read it, I mean, if you're an Okazu reader, I'm sure you have Shimanami Tasugare, which absolutely is the one story you should have read or should be reading and should be asking for more of. And hopefully Kamatani Yuki Sensei will be doing something cool. Let's see. What are the proportion of Yuri writing, women writing Yuri versus men? I can't tell you at this point, but even. Yuri fandom, it was always pretty even. The way Yuri fandom splits out isn't evenly. So not every guy is liking what I like, they're liking what they like, but it's always been within 40, 60, 50, 45, 55-ish. But I'm sorry about the ums. I'm going to feel really self-conscious about it. I may have to edit some of this. I hate editing. The number of fandom, I can't really tell you. I would say roughly just assume it's even, to be very honest. Just because there's so many people now. It's something for everything. And of course there's lots of folks still using fake names, so I don't know who they are. And a lot of times you'll see on Okazu, I will say they, because I either don't know what they are, what sex they are, or what they prefer to be, or it's not important, and I'd rather just say they. So a lot of people say, you'll see comments going, oh, so-and-so is a woman. I'm like, you know what? I don't see that's true. So I don't know that's true. If I don't know that's true, as far as I know, everybody's hiding behind a Twitter avatar. Let's see what else. If we can recommend Yuri novels, visual novels of trans characters. Yes. Louise has done a lot of visual novel reviews for Okazu, and she's the person you go to for visual novel recommendations. She does great work. So, and thank you, because I'm just never going to really like visual novel. I hate it because they look so fantastic, but I get so bored, and it's not the visual novel's fault. Okay, we are at 20 after. I will take one more question if somebody's got a good one, and then we'll wrap this up. And if anybody has something, do let me know. I know typing is hard. So I will just say this. Yuri is healthy, and I have you to thank for it. You folks are buying it, and you're tweeting about it, and you're sharing it. And I hope, and I know with you folks, that you're putting your money where your mouth is, and I hope you'll convince your friends to do so. In this world, there's no real reason anymore to support scanlations. And I know that some of you are still reading them, and I'm not going to tell you you're wrong. However, the folks that do them are not giving any advertisement anymore. It's a delusion that they bought into because 20 years ago, that was the case. So much is coming out that if you know that there's something that's out there that you really would like there, what I have to say to you is write the companies. Viz Media has been so wonderful. I write them stuff and they respond to me. Look what happened with the thing with the Uranus Neptune translation with the little chart. We all said, this isn't right. Why did you do that? And they said, we made a mistake. We are fixing it. And you can't really ask for better than that. Yen Press has been really positive about putting money into Katakawa stuff, into Shikaijin stuff. Seven Seas, of course, is doing great work. The GL Bunko and J Novel Club are bringing light novels over. You've got Studio Elan and their other imprints and some really great independent stuff. And I do talk about it a lot on the news report. I'll say, hey, look, here's a really cool new visual novel. So there's so much out there. Put your money where your mouth is, and let's support the industry. And I always say that, and I know you guys do, but I was very emphatic about it because that's the way we get more. If you want more, ask for more and say, here's my money, now give me this too. That's how this works. That's the best argument you can make for yourself. Let me just go over and see if there's anything else. Yeah, so there was a comment here. I'm surprised that Love Me For Whom I Am has began as a hentai manga. You know what? That happens a lot. It's not unheard of. I started my fanfic career writing porn because most of the 15-year-old boys who were writing it had never seen a woman naked, much less had sex with one. So I wrote stuff because I could. And that's how I got to be here. I'm talking because I wrote that stuff. It's all an evolution. So don't be surprised. Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Yes, Yahoo Group era. That's what I'm talking about back in the day. So I'm going to just say one or two more things, and then I'm going to wrap up. One, if you would like a 100-year of Yuri t-shirt, I'm going to do this kind of slow. 100-year of Yuri t-shirt. Please go to the YuriCon shop. I have all of our YuriCon designs that are on there. They're all original and special just for YuriCon. I go to the YuriCon store on YuriCon and go to the goods section. I do have random goods there too, like some of the figurines. I think the Uranus Neptune figurines are on there. So to do that. I also want to say thank you all. Obviously, this is really, really super important for you all to have been here and to have been with me all this time. And thank you all for supporting Yuri Studios. I'm still looking at my notes. Thank you all for supporting Yuri Studios. I don't know what I'm going to do with it, but maybe we'll do this again because you can't all be at every panel. And so maybe we'll do that. Okay, so I think we're totally good. Do we have any other questions? One more question, and we'll have time for one more in case anybody sees anything else. Oh, that was the other thing I wanted to say. Speaking of Yahoo groups, which I know is back in the day, way back when I started the YuriCon website, I started by taking our character Yuriko, our mascot, and writing a novel about her. And then I wrote a second one, and they're both up on YuriCon. They're called Shoujo Ai ni Boken and Sayu no Ryoko, and they're both terrible Japanese titles on purpose. I'm doing a new one. I've got a sequel coming. I'm doing it very, very, very slowly, just like I did them all, but I'm doing a new one. So one day I will announce a new story, and it's also got a terrible Japanese title, so you can look out for that. So that's the other thing. And that's it. I think we're going to wrap this up. If anyone wants to hang out at this point, we're going to hard stop in a minute or so. But if you have any other questions, just jump on and ask. Otherwise, I really, really appreciate you being here with me. I can't tell you how much fun this was. And I'm just so pleased that you all showed up. I really, really am. And maybe we'll do it again. Yeah, I know. I've missed Yuriko too. Actually, she lives in my head, so I don't miss her at all. I spend all the time I need with her. It's funny how often I meet an author who can talk about their characters, all the stuff outside the stories that had nothing to do with the stories, like all the backstories and stuff. Okay, then great. We're going to wrap up. I want to thank you again. Thanks for coming, and this has been a real blast. So I'm going to end stream, but you can join me on Twitter, and you can find me on the Okazu Discord, which is on the links on YuriCon. And I'll see you around. Thanks again. Really, really appreciate everybody. End the stream.